We are Witches Who Podcast.
Hey, Shelby.
Hey, Dee.
Anything weird happened to you lately?
Okay, so actually, yes, always. So recently, I've been going through some changes. And I say that, I said that to my mom the other day. She goes, "We're going through menopause." I'm like, okay, no, that's not what I meant. Things have been shifting, right, around in my life. That's a better way to say that. In a great way, right? Change is good. Yeah. So, but it's hard, right? It's so hard, even if it's like something simple or even if it's something huge, like it's relative, right? But it's still a challenge no matter what. And so, because it's different, your energy's changing, like feels uncertain or uneasy for a minute, right? I just realized my tea is way over there. Oh, well, it's fine. It's too late. It's too late. It's way over there. Anyways, so
So you were saying.
I have been really trying to go inward and focus on, what I can control and understanding what I can really do about it. So recently I've been spending a lot of time outside. So I've been going outside and really just trying to slow down and get a little bit more connected to nature and just feel secure, like find that feeling of peace and security again. Thank you so much for my tea. Beautiful.
So welcome.
And so we went down to the river, me and one of my friends, and down to the Santa Margarita River. I have a special little spot I like to hang out at, and we brought a couple decks of cards. And every single time I go there, I just feel so good. I mean, I grew up in this area, so I feel super connected to this land. And it just really gives me a lot of perspective to go there and just slow down and, put my phone away and just be there, right? Be fully present. And so my friend has also been going through some, shifts. So lots of things are changing in our lives, our relationships, our careers, like all these different things are shifting and changing. And we brought two different decks of cards. And so when we got down there, I was like telling her this story about in the spring, how like this particular spot I like to go to is like the breeding area for fish. So I was like sharing like a little story about, all the animals that I would see. And, when the springtime, not only is a bunch of fish being born, but there's also predators that are going to come down and try to get the fish, right? So I was just sharing this really cool little story with her. So we're sitting there and, we're like, all right, let's open up our decks of cards and like kind of do a card pull. And a little bit of backstory is both of us are extremely scared of spiders. Not our thing. It is horrible. They're scary because they're creepy crawly and they're tiny. A lot of them are tiny. And something that small should not be able to significantly alter your life in a bad way. Okay. Anyways.
Even like daddy long legs?
Yes, they're terrifying.
You're so skinny. Okay.
Ugh, no, gross. So I turn around to go get the decks of cards out of her backpack. And she is looking at me like dead still. And I'm like, and I knew at that moment, I knew because I saw the look on her face. Like there's a freaking spider on me. I knew it. I knew they were on me, in my hair, on my head. And I just paused. I'm like, I'm like feeling this whole, I'm already feeling the sensations again. Is there a spider on me? Can you check? I'm just kidding. Okay.
I think you're fine. I don't think I would tell you.
Oh my God. Yeah. She didn't say anything, but I knew by the look on her face. And so she's like, everything's fine.
Once your friend gets robotic, everything is not fine.
Everything is not fine. I'm like, oh my God. I was like, and then in my head, I was like, I knew it was a spider. And then my head was like, she doesn't like spiders either. How the hell are we going to get this spider off of me? And she freaking faced her fears and literally grabbed the spider and threw it out of my hair. I was like, that's a true friend.
That is a true friend.
Right? And she threw it and then I saw it like crawling away. And they're so weird, these spiders over there. They kind of look like daddy long legs, but their bodies are really round and white. And their legs are like really like, I don't know, they're just creepy. And so I'm freaking out, not having a good time. And I'm like ready to leave at this point. And I'm like, no, I'm not going to. We had like just gotten there. Like we were walking down there as I was telling the story. So we literally just sat down on my little blanket. And she's like, you good? I was like, I guess. She's like, do you want to leave? I'm like, yes, but no. Like we came here for a reason, right? And she's like, all right, let's just chill. Like we kind of just sat for a second. Then we pulled the cards out. And then every single card we pulled for each other, like we pulled our own cards, but like we were comparing, right? Were either the exact same card in a different deck, or they were sister cards. So this one deck that I have, it tells you like here's your card, here's your description or whatever, and then here is like other cards in the deck that would be like a companion or like whatever. So I would pull a card, she would get my companion card. And 4 different times that happened. Yeah, and they were all around the same thing of change is good, transformation in your life, like trust, all this stuff. And it was just everything exactly. What are the odds in 2 different decks too that happened to? It was so crazy and just so like you can't make that kind of thing up. You know what I mean?
You were meant to. First of all, the spider. I'm so proud of your friend for like facing her fear, and you too for like not being like, yeah, let's leave now. I feel like if you had left, like the spider would have been in your bag because you were not like complete.
Totally.
That circle.
I didn't. Yeah.
Your lesson was not complete. So, hey, thank you, spider out there in the Santa Margarita River for, you know, facilitating the healing of these 2 humans.
Well, that also brings me a little bit today to what I want to talk about. But before that, I'm Shelby.
And I am Dee.
And we are Witches Who Podcast. And we are having a really fun episode today.
It is. I'm very excited for today because I know you're kind of taking lead on this because you know like way more about it, I feel. So I'll share my views on it, of course, but I feel like you have a more in-depth with this topic, and I'm very excited. So
I feel like I say it every episode, and we have a really great topic today because all of our topics are so great.
They are. You will learn, you know.
You will. Okay, you will.
You will learn a little bit about yourself. Just be open. We're all gaslighting here, our listeners. You will. And if you don't learn it, it wasn't on us.
Yeah, it's not our fault.
It's not our fault. You should have been more open. Don't be so close-minded. No, I'm sorry. No, but I have a feeling that, you know, all of you will take away from this a little bit, you know, learn maybe a little bit about yourself and a lot about something else, something new.
Yeah.
So,
yes. So without further ado, our topic today is all about animals in spirituality. So animal familiars, spirit animals, power animals. Yes, there's a difference. We're going to talk about that right now. So all about animals showing up in our lives in so many different ways. So we're going to get right into it.
I love that.
But before that, I have my favorite little book. It's a pocket guide to spirit animals. And understanding messages from these animals. So it's kind of like how you would use an oracle deck, and is what I do. So
it's only the book. It doesn't come with a
no deck. It's just like, so as you're out and about and you're seeing animals or whatever, you can kind of like look up some spirit. Obviously it's biased, right? Because it's just like one dude's perspective, but I mean,
but you can also like just open it and whatever it opens up. It's like, okay, universe show me.
That's what I want to do right now.
Oh, yay.
So I'm actually going to look up the spider really quick because that was something that I wanted to do earlier. Which is interesting because
by the way, I love spiders. I think
really?
It's not like I love them, like, oh my gosh, I love spiders. It's just like I'm okay with them. I always feel like they're creepy crawlers that are my homies. I
don't even want to look at the picture in the book.
Like, let me see.
It's a creepy one. Why would you pick that spider?
She's pretty, slender, and with a round bum.
She's creepy. Oh, and it gives you, okay, here's another cool thing. It gives you like species, like black widow, brown recluse, tarantula, and then it also gives you like overview of just spider. Okay, so obviously I have no idea what kind of spider it was, but I don't think it was a brown recluse. So.
I hope not. Those
I think I know what that looks like.
Yeah, no, I think those are like venomous.
Or a tarantula. Yeah, I'm pretty sure those are not good.
They can kill you.
Yeah, that's what it gave me. Black widow, brown recluse, or a tarantula. They're like the worst spiders there are. Okay, whatever.
Okay.
So spider, this is an opportunity to access your deepest wisdom and assimilate it so that it becomes a part of your daily living. Okay, interesting. It's time to write creatively without limits of tradition or habit, allowing yourself to be inspired by nature. Ooh. I kind of like paraphrase. It's like a whole page, but like that was the first and last paragraph. Yeah, so in that moment, that would have totally aligned with everything that was going on. So that's fascinating. So
I love that.
Without further ado, I'm going to give this book to you. And okay, so just kind of don't look at it, but like there
I'm going to feel it. And by the way,
page.
If you're just listening to this, but I am wearing my tiger sweater that is super cozy.
Maybe that's the animal. Ooh. Maybe you just look up tiger.
Me and feline sort of thing. Okay, well, let's see. Universe, where do you want me? Okay. I got the falcon.
Ooh. We'll read a little.
Before making a decision, step back from from it and consider it from a broader perspective. So don't rush into things, I think.
Okay.
There's an opportunity before you. However, be patient and trust your instinct to know when the time is right to act on it. Pay close attention to the natural rhythms of your body and of your surroundings and see what this can teach you. Whatever choice you make at this time, once you made it, commit to it fully. Take the plunge.
Oh, take the plunge.
I felt that take the plunge part. I'm just like, I need to commit.
Yeah.
And I think it aligns right now. Oh, okay. Give me the chills.
Oh, I love that so much. See, it's so, I have such a large connection to animals. I feel super called by their messages, just things that show up every day. So I want to explain a little bit the difference between a power animal and a spirit animal.
Yes,
they are
please.
very different. So I'm sure spirit animal is kind of gone mainstream. Everybody talks about, oh, it's my spirit animal. And there's a joke of like, you know, like somebody does something weird, like, oh, that girl's my spirit animal or whatever.
Oh, yeah,
right? Like you hear that all the time, but like it's a real thing. So a power animal versus a spirit animal. A spirit animal is an animal that it's been with you through multiple lifetimes. It is your familiar. It is a constant, steady support guide for you.
Yeah.
A power animal is an animal that presents itself to you that has a message for you in the moment. So you can have the same, like, you know, lions, right?
Yeah.
That's your spirit animal, in case you didn't know that already. But like, because that is a guide that keeps showing up for you. So the lion for you is your spirit animal. That is going to carry with you through multiple lifetimes, that is constantly showing up all the time. And then you have like the falcon is a power animal, essentially, because that falcon had a message for you that was to support you with whatever you're dealing with right now.
Oh, so I have a question.
Okay.
Sorry. So let's say, like, I remember one time, I can't remember exactly what happened, but I think I may have. I don't know. My husband and I had a discussion. We lived down in San Diego and I was like, okay, I'm leaving right now. And I remember I took off to like go on a hike. I was like, I need to just process this. And I'm like by myself, like I just walk into like off the path and there was this big tree and I'm just kind of laying there in the tree and just contemplating and kind of going like, you know, like where do I need to go, let go of and things like that. And I see a coyote like really close by and just kind of like looking at me. And I was like, oh,
Wow.
So I'm thinking that's
Your power
at that
animal.
moment. Yeah. At that moment.
Oh,
You know.
yeah. Yeah. I'd be curious to see like what a coyote's.
I know what it
that
meant back then.
means.
I know.
And I think we also get really stuck on like, what's this message? What doesn't, just because you have a book, like, you know, a resource to read about it, that doesn't mean that is the message either. Right. Like that specific thing with the coyote, like that coyote showed up for a reason.
Yeah.
And like by kind of having that like connection, like you viewing the coyote, having that respect and letting that energy from the coyote kind of come over you and like receive and that message from it. You know, did you feel like you like kind of got anything from it, or did you try it all?
I didn't even, I just saw it and I was just like, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Like a little, I don't think my nervous system was in a place yet. So I remember I was like, oh, maybe I should go back home.
Yeah. Maybe that was the message.
Maybe that was the message. Go back home.
Yeah.
Don't exaggerate things, woman.
That's too hard.
I know.
Life would have been very fun if we didn't exaggerate every now and then, you know? But yeah, so that's the big difference between power animals and spirit animals. And so how do you differentiate the two? So honestly, it's a feeling. So with power animals too, I do something that's like called the power animal journey, where we can go in through meditation or through a trance state and let animals come to you in this meditative state. So you're visualizing and letting these animals come to you. And obviously, you know, guides can show up in a lot of different forms. And so sometimes you have guides that show up as animals to give you a message, right? So it's very interesting, can change and everything else too. So how do you know if an animal is your spirit animal? And I'm going to tell you, I'm just going to share a little experience that I had. So a couple years ago, I went through this year-long journey diving deep into shamanic work. And it was, you know, I had a teacher and it was really, really cool. I learned so much about lots of different traditions. I learned so much about myself. But one of the big takeaways was this animal connection. I'd always had a connection to animals and I didn't like fully understand it. And so we did a power animal journey, and it was just a really cool thing. So we were down in the trance state, and we go through. There's a lot of different techniques to get down there into that world, and the animals, we were just asking these animals to present themselves. Are you here for my highest good? Do you have a message for me? Right. And letting that animal come forward. It's kind of like a form of channeling. And so we would have animals present themselves, and then you would just kind of feel that energy, and a message would come to you. Like, just for some people, they hear the message. I just have that inner knowing of like, this is what they're saying to me. Yeah. But and that would happen every now and then. We would do this every single day. So that was our first thing we did was, hey, we need to get our support for the day. Like, here's our message. Kind of like an oracle card. Like, I'm going to pull a card to set my day. No, we're going to do a power animal journey to set the tone for our day. So one of the journeys, I was there, and this animal presented itself. It was a wolf, a female wolf. I knew this because she had pups with her. Ooh. And I always saw her in the distance, but she never came forward. So always, like, whenever we would do these journeys, another animal would always come forward, not her. And so I was like, this is so
you
strange.
can see several animals, but only certain will come forward for you?
That's how
with like
I
a message. Okay.
Yeah. So it would be like, we are outside or whatever. And sometimes they're like, shielded, like they're like kind of like behind, looks like they're kind of behind like a gray shield, or they're blurry. And then until one animal comes forward or whatever. But for me, I always saw her like up on a rock. She was always out in the distance, and I always saw her very clearly. But she never came forward. She was never the animal that was presenting to me. So I always thought that was interesting. And I never really thought anything of it. I was like, oh, this is just how it works, you know? Until one day she did. So she comes forward, her pups are up on the rock, and I see her wandering down, coming right in front of me. And she's sitting, and she bows to me. And then I bow to her. Like, I didn't know what to do. And then we just started like kind of walking circles together, keeping eye contact. We were just walking circles, like, and around and around and around. And she was like kind of jumping and nipping at my wrists. Oh. Yeah. Like, she was nipping at my wrists, but it was like, it wasn't scary. It wasn't bad. Okay. It was like a form of affection. Like, I was like, I'm like being playful. Yeah. Playful. Like, I'm being welcomed into her pack. Oh. And it was this amazing connection that I couldn't even explain. And when I came out of the journey, I had red like marks around my wrists. Oh, yeah. It was fascinating. Like, my nervous system was responding and sending signals. Like, it was so wild. And, the whole experience was just so much deeper. Like, all the feelings I would get were just so much more, like, saturated. Like, I don't know any other way to explain it. And at the end, she would, like, I would feel kind of curled up. Like, I would be like one of the pups, like curled up with them. Like, she's laying down and we're like, in there. And it was just this incredible experience that I always felt like this mother wolf looking over me. And so that is a spirit animal. She had been with me for multiple lifetimes, and you can feel the difference so much. She's always there, always somewhere, always there supporting me. And then there's different animals that will come forward for the day, like that spider clearly has something to say to me, and maybe they show up as physical manifestations. Like, I'm not saying you have to do a power animal journey every day to get an animal. They show up everywhere. Yeah. Right. All the time.
I love that. Oh, I love that.
Isn't that cool?
That is so cool. Yeah. I definitely have the lion. It's like, it's so interesting because it kind of definitely a feline, but it morphs from like a lion to a lioness to like a jaguar to a puma to a cheetah, like that. But it's always on my left side.
Interesting.
It's really, really interesting. So I know for sure that's like my spirit animal.
And you can have more than one too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Have to discover more.
Yeah.
Awesome.
I have another spirit animal that's a big, like, horned owl. Yeah.
Okay.
Really cool. And like, I've seen it where it's like a cloak over me where like I'm wearing the wings and like, it's really interesting. And I resonate a lot with I have a lot of like that owl energy for sure. Like, that's something that's always kind of carried with me. But so that's such a good story, power animals versus spirit animals, and animals that show up just in your day-to-day life. So like the falcon, or like here, we live in Southern California, so we have a good opportunity to see wildlife, right? Yeah. There's lots of birds, there's deer, there's mountain lions, there's a lot of different reptiles. So we're in desert, there's scorpions, there's spiders. There's everything. Like we have so many opportunities, but how many times, you know, like you walk by an animal every single day, I'm willing to bet, and you don't notice it.
Oh yeah.
Right? How many birds are flying in the sky?
Oh.
Like so many. So if you could slow down and kind of just make a note of, oh, this bird, even if it's a crow, right? Like give the crow some attention, like just notice it, you know, or whatever animal that is, and start to feel that energy, and you can pull in their energy and they can feel your energy. Crows are actually very fascinating animals.
Very smart.
They're super smart. They have facial recognition. They will remember you.
So be nice to crows.
Yeah. Be nice to crows. And a flock of crows are actually called a murder. That's my favorite thing about them.
They fly over our neighborhood every evening. They head like west. I don't never see them head like northeast, but I see them like around right before the sun goes down.
Interesting.
Tons and tons of them. And they actually near a street nearby, a little bit up the hill. I remember a few times I've been walking up there, and they were all on top of that house. My husband's like, what's going on with that house?
Interesting.
I know. I haven't really seen them do that, but I do see them every day kind of fly over our neighborhood.
Yeah. Yeah.
They
Protectors
pass
of
right by
land.
the house and go, and I'm all like, hey, what up?
Yeah. And
Anything for me?
yeah, right. Well, and I think crows too, like there's so many animals that have such a negative like connotation, right? Like, and crows are totally one of them.
Yeah.
Snakes are one of them.
Yeah.
Right. But
Black
there's
cats.
black cats. Yeah. There's so many that have been like staked this like bad omen, right?
Yeah.
But that's not necessarily the truth of it, right? Even through like history and different civilizations, like ancient civilizations, Egypt, like there's been animals are depicted as like gods. Like in ancient Egypt, you know, the Sphinx, and cats were worshipped, you know, and snakes are, you know, they're the symbol of fertility. They're a symbol of the kundalini energy, of the femininity of, you know, that polarity in a society. And there's so many things that that we're taught growing up, and maybe it's just me, but that we're taught growing up that are not necessarily the origins of that animal, and then we're taught to fear.
I wonder where your fear for spiders came from.
Yeah, it's a really good question.
You know?
Yeah, I have a friend that she's deathly afraid of spiders, but we know exactly where it came from, because one time she had a spider like colony hatch in her room as a child. Oh, and there were just like millions of little spiders all over the place. Oh my God, I'd burn my house down. It was like, that's horrific to me. So now she's afraid, terrified of spiders. And I'm like, well, yeah. Oh my God, you wake up as a child and you're just covered in tiny spiders. Oh, holy crap.
Yeah, that does not
That would be so scary.
I know. I think cockroaches is one of the tiny animals that I'm not in love with. Well, not that I'm in love with all the animals, but that it's just kind of like, you know, it's just, but when I was a teen, we moved into this new home, and the way my room was set up, I don't know, it was weird. But I remember it must have been, I don't know, the third night in that house. And like I woke up in the middle of the night feeling like tickles in my hand, like tickling in my top of my hand. And I was like, kind of like, I thought it was like my own skin, like certain sensation. And it was actually a cockroach. No. And then I turned on the light, and there were like all these like cockroaches in my, the door of my closet. And I was like, I cannot live here. My mom is like, what do you mean you can't live here? We just moved here. I was like, you don't understand. You need to like clear this juju energy from here. And then it went away. I can't even remember what we did. They fumigated the house and did the whole thing. But I wouldn't even have friends like over, because when we realized this was happening. But yeah, we were actually in the house for maybe like a year and a half. Yeah, there was something going on with that house. But cockroaches, so ever since, I'm just like, oh, I can't.
You can't handle the cockroaches. Yeah, they freak me out too.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, and they're like indestructible. I hate that.
I know. That's why it was so hard for me for a
Not that I'm
long.
murdering bugs or anything. It's just, you know.
It was so hard for me to get. I love dates, but I couldn't for the longest time because they reminded me of cockroaches, and I'm just like, ugh, like I cannot. Now
Yeah.
I can. You know, it's
Thanks
fine.
for ruining dates for
Sorry.
me. That's so true, though.
It's like I was like,
Ew.
oh no, no.
Oh my gosh,
Okay.
The date thing. I've been looking for dates, like the date, like the fruit, right? They're fruit. Yeah, they are, right?
Yeah.
Like good ones, and I can't find them anywhere because you know our delicious snack you made the other day of cutting the dates open, putting the peanut butter and rolling it in cinnamon. So good! I'm telling you, cookbook, it's coming
Yes. I know.
with
So
all these
good.
snacks. Anyways, back to animals that aren't like shaped like food. But yeah, so animals show up everywhere and they have a message. They are a conscious living being, just like plants. So why couldn't we connect to them? You know, and there is a lot of really cool things that you can do with your animals. So talking about pets. So I have always had some kind of animal in my life that I really, really connected with on just such a deeper level. Like I think a lot of people can probably relate to this where like you get you have a pet and there's that one pet that just sets, you know, like it just is apart from all the rest. Not that that's any better or anything like that. You just connect deeper to this one animal. And I've always had that kind of in my life in a different way. And so growing up, we had horses, and I always have had my first horse. Her name was Skeeter, and I connected with her so deeply. I mean, I only had her for a year before she passed away, unfortunately. And I was little. I was 8 years old, and that was a really hard process to go through as a child but it was also really beautiful and understanding. I got to be with her the whole time through her passing as a child, and it was just such a beautiful way out of this world, right? But I connected so deeply to this horse, and I just remember feeling so connected. And so when she passed away, I mean, we got other animals and other horses, and I never really had that deep connection until way later when I got my horse Lovey, and I got her, and she took me through high school rodeo and just all different things. And I connected so deeply to this animal, and she was kind of nuts. She was high anxiety and, just all the things. But I had this understanding that I just felt so connected to this horse. And, this huge, 1,200-pound animal would lay out in the pastures or whatever. And she was so comfortable with me that, I would lay with her and she'd have her head in my lap. And she was I just loved this animal so much. I don't even know how to explain it, And then we had dogs too. So we had a dog named Blue, and her name was
Balloon or blue?
Blue, like the
okay.
color blue. She was a corgi, and she had this really cute little spot on the back of her neck. And I think she was supposed to be my sister's dog, but dogs pick their people, right? And so I loved this dog so much. We taught her all these cool tricks. She would play dead. She would roll over. She would do all these cool things, and again, she had this cute little white spot on the back of her neck. Blue passed away. She was old, and we had to put her down, and it was horrible and sad. And I loved that dog so much. Well, I think about maybe a year later or a couple years later, I got my dog Tucker. And you all know Tucker by this point.
Where is he?
Yeah, he's at work with my husband. And he was all white when I got him. So when I got Tucker, he's a little French bulldog, in case you guys are just tuning in. And he was all white and like translucent. He was super sick when I got him, so he barely had any hair, but he was essentially white. So nursed him back to health. It was like the whole story of how I got Tucker was just crazy. I got him in an In-N-Out parking lot with this lady who was trying to sell them, and it was this whole fiasco. This dog was clearly dying, this whole 9 yards, right? So I get him, I nursed him back to health. It took months of going to different vets and all these different opinions, and he had kennel cough, giardia, he had pneumonia that was like in his lungs. I used to have to be up every 2 hours and like pat down his sides and be in the humidifier, in the bathroom with the humidifier, just trying to break up all the stuff in his lungs. It was so horrible. but he was better. I mean, I think he's 8 years old or 9 years old this year.
Oh,
Yeah.
he's adorable.
And so when I got him again, he was white, barely. He was like a little naked mole rat he had like pink skin. And after he got healthy, his hair started to grow in, and the older he gets, the darker like
the coat.
the darker his coat started to get. So he started to turn like this kind of golden color.
Yeah.
And so it wasn't until he was probably about a year old or so where he got a little bit darker, and he has the exact same white spot on the back of his neck.
Yeah, I've seen that
blue had.
spot.
Yeah.
Oh, that is incredible.
Exactly the same. And it kind of looks like a little like crescent shape.
Yeah.
And it is, I'm like, oh my gosh. Like that is so crazy.
That is so beautiful. Blue came back to you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Tucker.
As Tucker. And it's just it was just such a cool
That
like,
is
thing.
really cool.
And it took a while for it to show up too. I was like, oh my gosh. Like that is the same spot my other dog had.
Yeah.
So crazy.
That is super awesome. Oh,
Yeah. And I just love how different animals kind of show up in your life too. And I have so many stories like that though. Like so many. And it's all about like kind of what's going on in your life at the time too. Like if you kind of look back and be like, okay, this animal showed up or this pet or this whatever, like it really helped me get through this, or it really showed me this, you know?
Yeah. It's so cool. I love it.
Yeah. Do you have any experiences like
You
that?
know what? It's weird. Growing up in Mexico, it's different how people like, well, maybe we're just crappy caretakers. But, like in the States, everybody like takes care of their dog, and like in Mexico, it's just like, okay, here's a bunch of dogs, and some of them just came from outside. Oh, we just adopted a new stray dog, put it in, and like,
Yeah.
But they were. I remember there was this. Oh my gosh. Lulis, what's her name? Lulis. And she was this mix of like a Chihuahua because she was like a big Chihuahua. So she was a mutt, right, of something. But I remember I was little, and she was just really awesome. Like I just love her. She was like one of the favorite. Her partner, his name was Bobby, and it was like. It was like fluffy and big, and she's like this shorter, but they have babies together, right? I don't know how this happened, but they were like those were like the house dogs. And then all the other dogs that we have were either from what they have created or that there were strays that showed up and my grandparents started feeding and things like that. Because growing up, me personally, I didn't have like, my mom would have gotten me a dog, so it was more like the dogs that were at my grandparents. But Lulis, everybody loved her. She was incredible. And I would like play with her and when I was little. And I remember right now when you were talking about like death, she was like my first experience with, and in Mexico, it wasn't like, oh yeah, this dog is suffering. Like, we're going to go and put it down.
Yeah.
I never experienced like, I don't think we ever had a dog. Like they just died.
Yeah.
It wasn't like I don't even know if we ever took him to the vet, to be honest. But I remember she would sleep because only those two were the ones that slept inside. And she would sleep in the bathroom in my grandma's home. And I remember one day, like I had stayed at my grandma's. It was like early in the morning. And I must have been like maybe 5 or 6, but I couldn't still reach. Like if I'm sitting in the toilet, I remember my feet couldn't touch the ground yet. And she's there in the bathroom and she's all curled up, and I was like, oh, I'm all peeing. I'm like, hey, Lulis, like, buenos dias. And Lulis is not moving.
Oh no.
And I was like, Lulis, and I was like, oh. Got up, washed my hands and touch her, and she felt like rubber, like she felt, and I was like, grandma. And I remember the cool part was like, my grandma's like, we're going to go bury her. We're going to do, dug a little hole. So we had a whole graveyard, in the backyard of dogs and everything back there that passed away at my grandma's. But I remember then the other thing, I remember my grandma, it's like this, I'm telling you, it's like 7:30 and we're already at a funeral. Okay. So I remember my grandma like picked her up, but instead of like carrying her, she picked her up. Okay. So there's carrying and then there's picking up. So she literally like grabbed her and she stayed curled up. Oh, that was the weirdest thing. So she's all like curled up. So she just kind of like grabbed her and drag her outside, and she was still curled up. And I was just like thinking like this frisbee that she's carrying, out, and she just put it. And I'm all like trying to be tough and cry at the same time, and getting all these, designing her grave and stuff like that. But I always thought she was just so cool. So she was like the chill dog that put all the other dogs in their place just by a little growl. But I think she just came to really show me that, like, that was the first death that I experienced with like a pet, and to just like, like it wasn't that bad. But I don't know, maybe I got another feeling from my grandma, who I was like, that's not how you should carry her, like with respect. She's like, oh, there you go. I have stuff to do. It's early in the 7:30, it's like there's things going on. And I'm all like, oh my gosh. Yeah. But so it's for me to say, hey, there's these particular pets that came at a certain point in life. There was a turtle that I really wanted when I was a teen, but I was a bad teen. So my mom was like, it smells this bad, your room stinks. Like I would forget, but I had this attachment to this turtle. And then I wanted to be one of the cool kids. And I ended up giving it away to this guy who like loved it. And after he's like, yeah, you will give it to me. And I was like, yeah, sure. But man, till this day, I'm always like, fudge. I didn't want to give it away. No. Yeah. I'm always like, dang, I'm always like, I should not have done that. And then years later, he's like, oh, she's huge. She's in the yard. And, she disappears and comes back. She's at my mom's. Wow. But I know. And she had gotten huge. And I was like, man, I don't know what kind of life she's got. Like I got that like feeling like very guilty. Yeah. Of like, man, just like gave. And it may have been also my mother who's like, it's your choice. Like you gave her away. Yeah. And I'm like, man,
Well, so, maybe that turtle was meant to give a message to that guy you gave her away to.
I guess. Yeah. But yeah, I don't know. And now I think being able, because then my son and I were very allergic to pets. So we didn't know if we could have like pets. Like, so when they were little, we never had a pet because being allergic to the dandruff of animals. But Ramses came into our life, a few years ago. It was like 2 years ago. And he's this amazing black cat that we love. And I think he came in now knowing like he is here for like that reason.
Totally. And share a little bit about how Ramses came in, because it's such a cool story.
He's so rad. Okay. So first I thought he was an evil cat, just so you know. So he's a black cat, and not because he's black, right? But like he's black cats and their bad omen energy, apparently, that Hollywood had put. But when he came in, my husband has always grown up with cats, so he was like super happy. Actually, when we moved in together years ago, he had a cat that he left to his mom because we were allergic to cats. I can't have a cat in the house. Like this can't happen. So he actually left that at his mom's, and so we always just kind of like, hey, no cats. So he always wanted a pet, and we had considered like getting a dog and just like a companion, but it was, what was it? 2022. Yes. 2022 when he came into our lives, and there were some spotting. So my neighbors, where we lived, everybody's in like acre properties. So it's not like necessarily you can see the neighbor, but one of my neighbors is like, hey, just want to let you know, I saw a black cat in your property, and it was around the summer of like 2022, and it was really hot. It's like, so if you wouldn't mind just putting like a bowl of water out in case, wants to drink something. I was like, absolutely, totally cool. And my husband's home, and he's like, oh my gosh, I saw this super buff cat out there. I want to make friends with him. That's always what he says. So he actually saw him underneath our deck eating a squirrel, rationing a squirrel. He like, I think the only thing that I had left was like the head of the squirrel or something. He tells the story, but he was underneath the wheelbarrow and eating the squirrel. I saw him a couple of times and he would just like give me the fangs and this and that. I'm all like, I'm all trying to size him up. I'm like, okay, hold on. Are you cool? Are you not cool? What is going on? You're in our property, which surprisingly, because all our property is like, it's guarded and it's grid. Yeah, I have an energy grid around it. So him being in it, like he had to be chill, because if not, nothing else can come in. For another episode, how about you can do that. But so he was there and I was like, I'm not so sure. And my husband started putting food out, so started making friends, and still he wouldn't let you pet him. He little by little, we started winning a little bit more. And he, was going to, I was like, hey, he's going to be an outside cat, but he was so darn cute. So I'm all like, kitty. And then he was such a tough guy. There would be hawks trying to get him and he's just like staring at them. And I'm like, dang. And he has a clip ear because he's seen some fights, owls trying to get him as well. So he was, then we're about to head on a trip to Mexico City with the whole family. And we're like, okay, he left, like this cat, because he will come, we will feed him and he will leave and come back and leave and come back. And when this trip was coming up, he had left a little bit before in October. We're like, okay, we haven't seen the cat. We actually thought a hawk had gotten him because he was trying to get into the house and we weren't letting him in yet. And we have these gray horn owls in our neighborhood and those things can pick up a small dog.
Yeah.
So he wanted to get in and my husband's like, I'm sorry, but I can't let you in, buddy. And then the next day we couldn't see him. We just like did not see him at all. Finally, one day, I remember my husband was like devastated. The cat didn't come. I was like, if he comes back, we'll put him inside because I felt horrible that I'm like, oh man, the cat probably was eaten. I had given up that cat was coyote food or, owl food. So when he came back one day. My husband's a musician and it was around Halloween. I remember it was October 28th and we're about to go down to, it's so funny because it was October 28th. It was a Friday and he was doing a Halloween gig down in San Diego and we were running late on a Bamford time. So I remember I'm closing our room, the sliding door that we have in our bedroom that goes out into like the backyard, and I see this black little fur ball and like near the street, and I was like, oh my gosh, that's the cat. And I keep looking, and my husband's like running from the bathroom and trying to like get ready, and I'm all like, oh, Michael, I'm like, I think I see our kitty, and he's like, shut up, don't joke about that. Oh. And I'm all like, no, I think it is the cat. We're running late. I'm in costume because it's a Halloween party. And I'm like, it is. And he's like, oh, holy moly, it is the cat. And he like, we go out to, and I'm all like, kitty, come on. And he's like coming up, walking slowly. Like he's just like chilling, like, hey.
It's like all nonchalant.
Yeah. Came back. And I remember my husband goes outside and grabs him and he's like, I'm cutting your balls off and bringing you in the house, so you don't leave again. So we brought him in and he's been in ever since. And you took care of him while we were, you kind of kept an eye on him while we were on our trip and all that. But he came in, I think, right at the exact time he needed to, because he is my husband's body. And he's a badass, he used to, then we did like indoor, outdoor. And he would bring me like gopher. Oh yeah, I just couldn't. I'm like, good job, but I'm like, no. So he's a hunter. Now he's indoor, outdoor privileges, but with his outdoor privilege, he does has to be under supervision. So we do that. We try to do the air tag, like put a little tag and let him go, but he would come home with gifts. So, and I'm trying to also preserve the animals in our property because it's crazy. But yeah, he came in at the right time. This cat, if you see him now, you're like, a lot of people come and they're like, Ramses is so domesticated now.
This was a wild cat.
Yes,
No way.
Yes. But we do let him out sometimes and, to just run a little wild, and his instincts kick in pretty quickly. But I do feel a really strong connection with that cat. And I know we're going to talk about the connection with pets in a little bit. So.
Yes.
Yeah. Sorry to ramble on the Ramsey story.
I love that story so much. And it's so true. Like they just show up in your life, you know, and when you need them the most, whether you think that or not, like we've always had that as part of our life too. Like growing up, we had a lot of room on my parents' house. And so lots of property, lots of wildlife opportunities, you know, but my dad, for some reason, is like, we always make fun of him. He's like the animal hoarder, just like Mike. Like any animal he'll feed it. He will feed any animal. So he's always had cats.
Okay.
So actually this is a fun story. So my dad has a shop where he, you know, like a workshop kind of deal on their property. And so cats would just started showing up one day. I don't know if it's just people like would dump them or whatever, but one cat in particular, her name was Gracie. He named her because she was gray. I don't even know. We were little. Me and my sister were little, and Gracie showed up and immediately just glommed onto my dad. Like she literally just walked up the driveway one day, and that was my dad's cat. Like it wasn't even like he had to coax her. No, it was like she just immediately chose my dad. That's that. And she was pregnant.
Oh,
so she had babies, and if we had all these kittens, we gave them all away, and then we kept 2 of them, and both of them ended up getting taken by a hawk or owl or something happened.
Oh, so this cat was like an outdoor cat, or
we brought her inside. Like we had to put her in a big box for her to give birth. All the cats were inside. Like that's whatever. They're indoor, outdoor, whatever. And then she just disappeared. She had her babies and she disappeared. It was like she found my dad, like felt him out or whatever. And was like, this dude's gonna take care of my kids, and had all their little babies, and then booked out, and we took care of these kittens and bottle fed them and all this stuff, and she had a ton of them too. There was I don't remember how many, but then and so we ended up had a few of them. We always had cats, and they just showed up. We never went and got any of these animals. They just happened about us. And so my dad's always been the cat dude, and so there had been different cats that showed up. We had a black cat show up. We named him Blackie. I don't know. And my dad would feed him. They were always outdoor. Like they didn't want to come inside, but they would bring gifts, and they would just hang out with my dad. Then there was a big orange one for a while that came through and like just hung out with my dad. Like that was the whole thing. And then they would always have babies or whatever. And one of them had babies in my dad's boat that was outside. And so that's a whole thing. And so then all the babies would start showing up, and then we would try to play with the babies. And like my dad just had this like the whole like few year period where he just had a bunch of cats, like, and then they stopped coming around for a while, and then like I think like last year, whatever, a chicken showed up.
What?
An all black chicken.
Oh,
yeah, and it just showed up. We could never catch it or anything. He could never catch it, but it would just kind of hang out and
I want
around
chickens.
my dad. Like, it's so funny.
I want chickens and goats.
There we go. Oh. Yeah, me too. Actually, one day.
How interesting a cat, because
it's so weird.
There's I don't know, maybe now, but there is like guys like they want like the dogs, right? Like a big dog. But there's a lot of guys that are like love the cat.
Yeah, my dad loves the cat. Yeah,
yeah, and
my dad loves all the animals. But yeah.
And I love that because the cat has feeling has big energy and big representation of the divine feminine.
Totally.
So, and my husband is such a dog guy, but he is a cat lover. So interesting. And right now when you're talking, actually, so my mom got remarried when I was in my early teens, and my stepdad, rest in peace, he had a cat that was indoor, outdoor, mostly outdoor. And he had 3 Dobermans, like purebred Dobermans. Like this man was obsessed with his dogs. Like he had little busts of his dogs, right? So,
That's cool. I want
and
one of
I
Tucker.
was terrified. That would be good to
The big
get one.
gold or brass,
Yes,
big
like a
brass.
brass one, like to hang here.
Yeah, right
next,
here.
next
The
to our
face.
sign here.
Yeah.
We should do one of Ramsey's and one of Tucker, and just like
Somebody
our
buy
pets.
those for a gift for us. Okay.
Yes, please. But yeah, and I remember I was terrified of those dogs because also
big
like
and scary.
yeah, but they were so sweet. They were just like the most amazing and protectors. But the cat right now, when you were talking about the cat, I was like, oh my gosh, actually my first encounter like having a cat pet, it was that, and her name was Chiquita.
Oh, cute.
And so my stepdad passed and we ended up moving houses because we were building a new house when he passed, like right before he passed. We were still finishing up the other house, so we moved from the house and took the cat to make her more like indoor, but she was like indoor outdoor, so we would let her out and she would walk all the way to the original house. Like we had to go get her so many times. I felt horrible because I was be like, "Where's the cat?" And my mom's like, "Probably down at the old house." And we'll go until one day we didn't find her.
Oh,
And we're
no.
like, "Oh," I was like so bummed. And by the way, everybody who's listening, so we're kind of no longer really allergic to cats.
Yeah, which is even more interesting.
Yes. So actually Ramsey's, like I have him in my bed. He's on my covers. He's on my son, who's very like used to be very allergic to him. On his cover, he'll be playing video games and have him on his lap. And because Ramsey's such a cuddler, but he can still kick your butt, eat you. But yeah, the only thing is so lucky that he doesn't have the same type of dandruff that other cats have, because when we go to my mother-in-law who has like 7 cats, she does have carpet. We don't have carpet at our house.
That helps a lot.
I think that does. But when we're at her house, we have to like stay in the wood furniture and like not sit in the couches or anything like that, because it will trigger it. Even this Christmas when we were both there, my son was fine, but towards the end, as we were wrapping, we were there for maybe 3 hours or maybe 4 hours. And I was like, we need to leave. I could feel it, like my eyes and all that. And even though she cleans beautifully and tries, there's just so much you can do with that. So I think it does have to do a lot with the dandruff. But yeah, Ramsey's, he knew exactly, I can go to this family and they won't kick me out.
Yeah.
Nice.
And they're going to take care of me, and they're,
I love that.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that so much. Yeah. And there's just like, getting more back. What the heck was that? Getting back to like more of the spiritual like aspect of pets and animals that show up. Like I've always had like a pretty deep connection to snakes. I've always wanted a snake. I love them. I think they're fascinating creatures. So when I was a little kid, I always tell this story, and it's funny because I told my mom this story like a while ago, and the whole time she thought it was a fake animal. So this is great. So when I was little, like maybe 5 or so years old, I had a pet snake. Not really. It lived outside. It was a king snake that it just showed up in my backyard one day. And I remember being really little, and I would play like Indiana Jones. I'd go like tie a bunch of jump ropes together around trees and pretend like I'm climbing different things. And we had a trampoline, and I loved being outside. So I would play outside all the time. And this snake, I named him Fred. He was a California king snake, so he's the black and yellow stripes. Yeah. Totally docile. And I remember like we would see those snakes all the time. And I remember seeing my dad like pick them up or whatever. So I was like, okay, in my head, I knew it was I can pick up the snake. It's fine. So I did. I would pick him up, and he would curl around my arm, and I'd go about my day. I would literally, as a little kid, have this snake wrapped up my arm, go outside playing, and like, where was my mom? My mom was, right there. Like, I don't know maybe she thought it was like a jump rope or something because I was playing with, I don't know.
And you weren't freaking out or anything. Probably that didn't flag her.
Yeah.
I was like, what is that? So since you weren't complaining, there was no reason for her to be like, Shelby, what's going on with you?
Exactly. Yeah. And it would follow me around too. So I would let it go, and it would follow me through the backyard all the time. And I named him Fred, and every winter he would go away.
Okay.
And every spring and summer he would come back.
Okay.
And this happened probably 3 or 4 years back to back where he would keep coming
So
back.
you can see that, like how he was growing. Did it get bigger? Okay.
Yes. And then I would see, like, they shed their skin or whatever, and I would see that. And yeah, it was getting bigger and bigger. And then, one year he just didn't come back. So I don't know what that happened, but I loved that snake. And I knew it was the same snake. I don't know how I knew, but I knew it was.
Yeah.
He kept coming back. Same snake, and we just had this connection.
Yeah.
And I remember being little, and I would just lay out there and the snake would kind of just be around. And I remember, and this is like kind of my segue into the other thing that we want to talk about, is I felt like I could connect to the snake and kind of see through its eyes. And I didn't understand it. And it would scare me a little bit. So I would like kind of get up and start playing or whatever. But I never told anybody that before. But I told my mom recently about Fred and how he would follow me around. She's like, wait a minute, like Fred was real? And I'm like, yeah. She's like, I thought you were just telling me like an imaginary pet snake. Like I didn't think he was like a real snake. I was like, yeah, Mom, it was a real snake.
How funny. I wonder if there's any pictures of you out there that you haven't paid attention to it. And once you look at them, you're like, well, you can see the snake wrap on her arm. That would be so cool.
That would be so cool. I'm gonna have to go back through some old pictures and see.
Yeah.
But yeah, so being able to like see through Fred's eyes scared me a little bit. And then, growing up, I was like, I was little. I was like around like 7 years old by the time he stopped coming around or whatever. And I kind of forgot about it until recently when we were talking about it. This is a couple of years ago now already, but where that's a very possible thing.
Yeah.
So do you want to talk a little bit about it?
It's really cool. I was thinking about that the other day and I was like, oh no, you have to ask permission.
Yeah.
Because we had talked about it, like, oh, you can use Tucker, I can use Ramses. So you can connect to these animals and use them. Not, with that feeling of like, you're going to use the animal, but, you can ask them permission to be able to be your eyes. And you can do this with plants too. I have something really interesting with plants too. But anywho, so the animals, so with Ramses, I was trying to, pretty shortly after we got him and he was inside the house, I think that's when we were talking about it. And he just gave me like this sensation and this feeling of like, I can facilitate this for you. And trying to connect with him and, but you do have to ask permission and have this direct connection, and you have to trust tremendously, do some energy work for both of you, get into that state, because you will literally be astro project. You know how you astro, remote view? You would remote view through like a surrogate, which would be your cat, your animal in this case, to be able to see, but it's very possible. So what you were doing with Fred, it's like, oh, I can, and being so young.
Yeah. It was an accident. Totally.
Yeah. But just the intention of like, oh, what is that? And being able to see, and you see it now, like even in movies, like, the eagle's eye view and things like that. But just imagine you connecting so much through your pet and through shamanism and history. The shamans are sitting and they have the eyes of the jaguar, and they could see what's happening out there, and they would know, if villages were going to be under attack because they saw like a premonition, quote unquote, or they had a vision. It's just their connection to nature. So one has to be very clean vessel to be able to do that. But yeah, I haven't tried it again. I think I need to do like a big detox and just kind of, just for me, for my own comfort, to be like feeling like I'm really connecting, when maybe other people out there, they can go and get drunk one day before and be like, hey, I can just close my eyes and be like, hey, Hawk, I want to use your eyes, and they can see it, and more power to you. But yeah, it's fascinating. It's definitely something that I would love to explore more.
Yeah, kind of hone the craft a little bit.
Yeah,
definitely. So have you ever been successful?
With Ramses, yes. And I think it was right at the beginning, and then I didn't nurture it anymore and continue. Which maybe it closed up a little bit because I was like, oh my gosh, now I can spy on my kids when I'm not home.
Oh my gosh.
And then it was just like, oh no. So I did it like little like glimpses
Yeah.
of it, not consistent enough. But I'm curious to try it again and
Yeah.
like doing it longer. Like I could see, but because it's the first time I was trying it, am I in a completely like trance state where nobody, my husband's gonna be like, hey D, blah blah, and bring me out, and how do I come out?
Start using the weed whacker or something.
Yeah. So, but yeah, it's fascinating. I just did little tidbits of that.
I know. I remember when we were talking about it like, years ago, and I was like, I have such a deep connection to Tucker. He's fine, right? And I didn't think about the permission thing or anything else. And I had been doing Reiki on him, and he loves it. You know, he feels you can just see him relax and settle into it. So I was doing that one day to Tucker, like Reiki and just letting him or whatever. And I think I was actually in here doing it, and he was laying there on the biomat. And I was like, I'm going to try this. So like I kind of went into a meditation, and I saw like my energy kind of like going into through his feet, because that's also a thing, a big difference between like shamanism too is in Reiki, and like is with Reiki you start head down. Well, in shamanism you start feet up, and so like your conduit or your portal point is the toes, and you go in the body that way. And so I saw myself like my energy like in like a mist like form kind of tap his toes. And he immediately jumped up in real life, jumps up and turns around and looks right at me like, F you, lady. What are you doing? Like pissed. And I was like, whoa, that was real. That really happened.
Yeah.
And he was mad. He responded. Like he felt my energy, and he was like, what are you doing? And after that, I haven't tried it again, because I was like, I pissed him off. He's shut me down. Like, he's like, no.
Oh, so interesting. I might need to try to do that through the feet with Ramses.
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to. Yeah, when I did it, it was just like this meditative state and coming into this connection and asking for permission and kind of becoming one. That's also why it wasn't as successful or powerful. So again, I have not honed in, trying different techniques.
Yeah.
And then also I'm thinking maybe a particular technique will, like, you have to figure out your own with your own pet. Like it may be the same way in, but how to sustain it.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, it's interesting too. And I always think about like it's seeing in like in movies and stuff where you'll see like behind their eyes or whatever. Like I always think about Lion King or like The Jungle Book too,
Oh yeah.
I'd always think about those two things. But yeah, so it's so fascinating. Like even if you have like a deep connection to an animal or whatever, like you said, the permission is everything. But yeah, that's something I want to focus a lot more on this year, is kind of focusing more on that connection to nature and animals. And
I'm wondering if anybody out there is teaching that, like how to use them.
Yeah, interesting. I bet
the government.
Sure. Yeah, right.
Right now it's like, oh, we're gonna. Good luck, government.
Oh my gosh, that's so funny. But yeah, so that's super fun. But so animals, there's just so much that we can learn from them, and so much that they have to teach us. I mean, we are animals in and of itself, so why wouldn't we be able to connect and communicate with them?
Oh, absolutely.
Right. So I think that communication happens a little bit differently, right? Like they don't have the same language we do. So being able to connect to an animal and communicate can look like telepathy, right? It can look like just an energetic exchange. And my mom has like this really deep connection to gorillas.
Oh.
She's fascinated by gorillas, absolutely loves them. Like we'll go to the wild animal park here in Escondido, and she'll just be at the gorilla exhibit all day. She'll just sit there and just be there all day. And she's just mesmerized and connects to these gorillas. And it's so fascinating how certain people connect to certain animals in a deeper way. And like, I don't think I know any person that doesn't have a connection to an animal. You know what I mean? Like in some capacity. So we naturally gravitate towards these beings. And I think that's absolutely for a reason.
Absolutely. And it's more like you're saying, it's like this connection, and but it's the vibration. They feel your frequency, feel your vibration, and we have to be a match because, like, we know, like, pet, like your dogs, the cats, like their hearing is so much better than ours.
And there's eyesight too,
Yes.
right? Like,
So everything's heightened, and we're here, you know, they depends, right? Like Tucker has it pretty sweet. Ramsey's has it pretty sweet. They don't have to worry about where food is coming from, things like that. So, what is kind of blocking them versus humans, what's blocking us is different. So, our pets are, well, not our pets, but our nature pets out there, wild animals are so tapped into nature. And that's the disconnect that we have as humans, the connection to nature. So the more we become one with nature, the more we raise our vibration, our frequency, and we begin to emit that out, that maybe a hawk, that's why you see hawks all the time, or you feel like they're following me, or, just like building that connection a little stronger. But how fascinating for your mom and the gorilla. You know what? It's so funny. You say it, I can totally see her being a gorilla lady. Like, totally can see that. Like, just, I love that she loves them. I was fascinated with gorillas when I was a teen. And I just thought they were like these grand creatures and so smart and so strong, just resilient.
Yeah, and that's probably what you needed to hear when you were a teen.
I know.
Interesting.
Yeah. I know. It's a
I love
horrible
it.
teen, I feel.
Oh my gosh, that's funny. Well, yes. So just, in closing, this connection we have with animals is deep and vast, and there's so many different things that we can do with them and learn from them and deepen that connection. Just go be outside. Go be outside and just be present and connect, because animals don't operate on the same timeline that we do. Yeah. They don't have this sense of time, or even like they don't know is that it's a Monday or whatever, you know what I mean? So meet them where they're at. And if it's something that you are passionate about or something that you want to learn more about, stay tuned, because I'm sure there will be lots more episodes about this kind of thing. So.
Yes. No, absolutely. Do you want to open the book and see?
I do.
Yeah. Okay, let's try you.
One last time. Okay. I know I already did like the spider thing, but I'm like,
well, the spider one, you wanted to look for the spider.
I did. I wanted the spider. Yeah. Okay. So a frog.
Ooh.
Do a physical cleanse to detox your body. Oh my God. We were just talking about that. That's how I'm going to connect deeper to these animals, right? Do an emotional cleanse by letting yourself really feel your emotions. Cry as much as you need to, in order to clear and release any emotional toxicity. Singing and chanting out loud will help you feel more balanced and at peace. You're entering into a time of plenty and abundance.
Oh, I love that.
This is the start of a slow and steady transformational process for you. A movement from an old life to a new one. If you hear a frog during the daytime, it will rain soon. That was weird.
Oh, all right.
Interesting. That is interesting, actually.
Yeah.
That's so funny. I've been seeing frogs actually a bunch lately. I forgot. Did I tell you that? Every time I go to my mom's house, there's a frog.
Oh.
Every time.
I haven't seen it, but I think I was telling you that at our house, we have a frog. And then I was leaving your house and I heard it like on your neighbors.
So funny.
And I was on the phone with my husband and I was like, hey, our frog moved to Shelby's neighborhood, because it sounded exactly the same. You. I know, but it's still in our house. So, which is so interesting because I'll hear it. I'll just kind of be like sitting outside and I'll just hear it go off. I was like, I wonder where you are, friend, but it's okay.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. That was awesome.
That was aligned for sure.
I learned so much today, especially with the power and spiritual animals. So our spirit, like right now when you were talking, well, not earlier, you were saying just about having more than one.
Yeah.
Every time, which is probably more of a spirit animal of mine. So every time I see a yellow butterfly, I just know like,
thanks for listening.
This is like
and don't forget to follow us on social media at Witches Who
my path of
Podcast.
service. But it's between my lioness feline to the butterfly.
I love that.
So interesting. I'm going to keep an eye out for the power animals and what they have to say.
Exactly.
So thank you, everyone. We are excited that you are listening and you tune in to this episode, and we look forward to hearing from you. We are continue to take in, you can email us your, spooky stories, paranormal, ghost, anything like that stories.
Any cool animal stories you got?
Absolutely. Because we're going to do a few episodes on listener stories that we are very excited. And we already received a few of them. So we are so grateful.
Yes.
So tune in, stay curious. Till next time. Besitos. Bye.
Peace. Thanks for listening. And don't forget to follow us on social media at Witches Who Podcast.